Welcome to If This Then What. My name is Joshua Giles. We are here to connect the dots and explore the big what if shaping the world. That's Sydney Davis. Sydney, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Josh?
I am feeling lovely. My 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 main job, my everything. We're in ESOP, and so every single year we have like a new company evaluation. And it's kind of like this big holiday type of thing. And it's
Cool.
also like if you think about I watch they do a live stream, basically like they highlight one of the big things and then they like talk about what made up the year. It's like this like moment in time that you have the entire employees watching the same thing. And
That's so cool.
it's great, and I actually like I get Linda to watch it with me, and it's like,
No.
what is the page like? Because it's my retirement, but it's not a paycheck, but it's like, what is the paycheck that I'm getting this year for all
Yeah.
my former years? And so we had that last Friday, and just the merriness of that has crossed into this week, and so just I feel like everybody's in a good mood. We're doing
Cool.
good things at work. I feel like at home we're all in a good mood. It's just a happy time. I have the sun out whenever it was 7 o'clock at
Yeah.
like daylight saving times. Why don't we just keep this? I know.
I think that's the plan.
Really excited about that. We my last when we fell backwards, it just so happened that my mom was already planned to watch my son that weekend.
Mhm.
And so it was really nice because somebody else took the blunt of
The
of
extra
the day
hour.
of the extra hour. It was really good for us. And
Mhm.
so this time we was coming up with the daylight savings time, and me and Linda like looked at each other and we're like, oh, we better start planning for that. And I was like, wait a second, where's my parents at? And so I just like text my mom and I was like, it's like, hey, it's a daylight savings time. So you tapping in? And she's going she's going on spring break, and so timing was just perfect. And I was like so happy go lucky, like somebody else is gonna have to somebody's gonna to do. They went the wrong way. My mom had this 1-year old awake at 10 p.m. on a
What
Monday night.
the heck?
Cindy, last night when you so the day is Wednesday, March 12th. Last night, typically we record on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
It was like 7:40 at night. And this boy is
Oh.
wide awake. And I was like, we are not recording tonight. And when you called and was like, hey, I need to reschedule, I was like, yes.
Score. How was it tonight?
So it was it was better. Not
Buddy.
not ideal. But uh, love you, mom. Thank you for watching Anderson.
Yes, thanks, Mom.
He's taking his first steps now. It's a
Oh
really
my
cool time in
goodness.
parenting. So um
How cool.
yeah, I didn't mean to drop that bomb at the end of my like long story. But yeah, my son's walking now.
Yeah, no big
Just
deal.
like yeah, it's
Just a
kind
little
of
sprinkle to that information.
yeah.
Well, that's
Um
good.
well, cool. So why don't we jump into the show?
Let's do it.
Let's talk about AI. I have a really simple how I used AI this week. And it kind of combines some of the things that so you've switched over to ChatGPT Pro. Have you
Yeah,
officially made that change? Okay, so
yeah.
now that you have it,
Mhm.
you have to consistently try to remember what it was like before. Because when you come
Huh.
onto these shows, like the majority of the people that are watching, they don't have the pro, and we should not expect majority of people to have the pro. Like the
Yeah,
$200 a month is excessive,
it
but
is.
what we are experiencing now is going to make the $20 jump a year from now, 2 years from now. So just consistently like keep in mind these new things that you're coming out, because when I was talking to you, like when you start using O3 more, when you start using O1 Pro more, when you start using the search function more, the research for like all these different things, you got to just keep it in perspective, because we now have to explain what is coming down the road. So you always reframe it back to the 4.0 experience, because 4.0 experience is pretty nice. But just keep in mind that that is the thing. So as
Yeah,
I say
pause
that, my
it.
my use case this week is involving a deep research, which $20, the deep research that I did, you can benefit from. I actually, listen, Linda, I'm going to need to post this report
Listen,
about
Linda.
the show somewhere on my Google Drive, and we'll make it public, and so we'll put it onto this YouTube channel so everybody can kind of get this report, because I think it's people that so let me backtrack. I historically, my Twitter feed
Mhm.
has been like 30% U of H sports. Then somewhat it had like this like weird mixture of tech news, and then it started getting heavily AI, and then now I would say it was like it's like a 80% AI, 20% sports news. But I've kind of just like let it happen inherently. Like I've just
Mhm.
let the algorithms know, like I'll pay attention more whenever there's something that I actually feel like will make me better.
Yeah.
But I continuously see that people talk about like, and people that like I respect a lot in the AI worlds. Like, if you want to learn about AI, you need to do two things. We'll talk about both things during the show, because that's actually part of
Okay.
my news episode. Um, is one, you've got to follow the people that are doing the cutting edge stuff. And the only place that you do that is Twitter. And so, like,
Mhm.
I'm trying to be intentional about the people that I follow so that I can see their cutting edge stuff. And so, what I did, my strategy like a month ago was like, oh, I'll go to the people, the like commentators that I really like, and I'll just go to their follow list, and I'll just follow everybody that they follow. And if I do that enough to 10 people, then I'll get to know all the information that is leading to their frame of reference to be able to give me that information. And I started doing that. And then I realized that that was a terrible method, because now I'm just getting the information that I was already getting from the same people. And like now I'm starting to see the same regurgitated messaging. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, now I need to like switch my frame of reference. So because I still want to watch their commentary, I just
Mhm.
don't need to be informed by the same people that's informing their commentary.
Yeah.
Um, so I was like, okay, how can I hack this in a way that like actually kind of helps me do the thing in a little bit more of like a scientific approach method? Um, so I prompted, and I said, I've heard that Twitter/X.com has been the best place to go for people demonstrating cutting edge AI use cases. I'm wanting to curate a follow list with the best people to follow in various fields of AI. I'd like to do this by creating a deep research prompt that searches for the most referenced Twitter accounts for various AI lanes, business, chat, coding, video creation, pictures, creations, etc., as well as just general AI commentators and generalists. Write the best deep research prompt that will create multiple lists with just people's handles and the typical reasons that they are referenced. So I'm just like, hey, this is a goal that I'm wanting, and this is the format that I'm wanting in. Do all the hard thinking for me. This is a O1 Pro. So this is a reasoning model. So all you $20 people, your O1, it used to be called O1 Preview, but now it's just O1. This is a reasoning model. It's just going to think about all the things it should think about in that subject before it responds. Um, Gave me my prompt. I put that prompt over into it, and oh, they kind of only kept the prompts to things that I had prompted to, and I was just like, "Hey, you sure you don't want to add any more on there?"
Mhm.
So then I was like, "Hey, write me a final deep research prompt that has all these prompts on there, all those conditions." Um, and then I had questions that came back because deep research always asks you questions. And I was like, answer these questions for the best results. However, and I remembered, and when it was giving me the searches, like most of the time when people do Twitter things, it's like a screenshot of their tweet. So I needed to be like on the lookout for references that are like in like images as well.
Mm.
Um, so answered the question, it referenced my image thing. We now have a nice report with all of the people that I'm going to go follow. Um, and unfortunately, Twitter only lets you follow a certain amount of people a day because it thinks you're a bot. So
Oh, interesting.
I keep getting blocked from following more and more people. Um, but that is how I used AI this week because I like to see, because I'm not going to do the things that they're doing. But like, again, the whole premise of if this, then what is this is if you have to, we'll talk about this later. You have to think of AI as an orb of energy that is like, is just, it's able to be an engine for a boat, for a car, for a plane, for a helicopter, for like a spaceship. And it's just like the same orb of energy. And it just like you push in one side and something else comes back out. And so it's like,
Mm.
there's just different people that figured out how to push the same orb, and like the more and more time you can spend around understanding all the things the orb can do, it's like you figure out ways that you can push it, because you're like, oh, I'm taking as I'm watching somebody be doing cutting edge things in their field that they're cutting edge at, I'm applying my knowledge of the things that I'm good at or that I'm trying to do in the day. So I'll post this link up and or this report up, and there's
Oh,
a little
good.
summary of who to follow, and it's like some of these people I wanted to and some of them I didn't, and um
I'd love to
it's kind of
check
been
that out.
cool.
I might
So,
have to create because we know I'm not on social media. I'm only on LinkedIn
uh-huh,
because my work requires me to be on
yeah.
LinkedIn. Other than that, I'm not on anything. So, but I think if I created a Twitter account from scratch and then only followed those people and used it solely for that, then I think I could digest that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do your best to stay away from there's like following, and then there's like for you. And the for
Mm.
you is the trap. The following is like your curation of the people that you just want to follow, and then the
Mm.
for you is the trap. The trap is really good trap. It's a really
Is
good
it?
trap.
Look,
It's a really
one
good
of the
trap.
reasons why I'm not on it is because I know that it's good. It knows me. Like TikTok, that one guy that pops up and goes, "You've been scrolling for a while. You okay?" Popped up one too many times. That's why I'm not on TikTok anymore. Oh.
Yeah, yeah. Those I have follow a similar account on Instagram, and it actually worked for me. It's like I'm like scrolling, and then like there's like some like they always their hook is like some outrageous video that you can't not watch, and then
Yeah,
it just
I
like
see what
pops all
happens.
these like random videos into it. It's like you've now been trapped by the mind virus. Like you need to turn off your Instagram, and like you're like, oh dang, you got me again. Uh so cool. So how have you been using Twitter this week?
So
I said
this
Twitter. How are you using AI this week?
yeah. So this week, something that was really helpful for me in my work, in the recruiting line of work that I do, on LinkedIn Recruiter. We've been working on some roles that have been a little bit challenging to find. One of them is for a company that they repair ships while they're still in water, and needing to find a technical report writer, which has so many different titles, transferable skill sets, even with marine maritime experience has been interesting. And so Boolean search is something that you have filters that you can go and you can type in company name. You can do the filter part where you type in company names, type in specific job titles, years at that work, you name it. Or you could just do a or you could do a Boolean search, which Boolean search, it's basically a coding way of filtering out and searching things. And there's a way of putting the same word, same type of word, but different ways, and putting "and" in all caps, so that includes all of them, and then, parentheses, and then putting "or." There's just a bunch of different words you could use. And so it can get kind of difficult to put together because it's pretty simple. It's not coding. For coders out
It's
there, don't come at me, but it can be hard to develop it. And I used it by uploading the job description into it and asking it to develop a Boolean search for me. And that night and day difference has just been so helpful.
Oh man. I can see that being applicable to so many different people's jobs. Like that,
Mhm.
like so Boolean search, just like to kind of put a double click on what you're saying. It's
Yes, please.
completely logical. It's completely logical framing of just like filtering down information. And so anything that you can get that is logic based is like the perfect AI use case. Like you should be thinking about everything that you ever have tried to do that you could like boil down to a logic piece. Like it can code that Python for you because you can define the logic, or it can code that Boolean.
Mm.
I say Python, you can code that Boolean. You can code like anything because if it's an error that comes up, you can just say, "Hey, it's doing this, this, and this. Tell me, tell me the exact sentence that you are using to code that that step." And it's just like, "Oh, here's the exact spot that you just messed up. I actually meant to say this instead of that." And it just like fixes it
Mm.
from
Mhm.
that perspective. And so it's like anything logic based, which is like I think from just my perspective, one of with the coming wave of things that you're just going to have so many different amateur coders out there. Like when I before before ChatGPT, anytime do you know what command prompt it is? The command CMD. Do you know what that
No.
looks like?
I know what
Okay.
Command Z does.
See, so you know what a command prompt is.
Yeah,
You
but
just
not
don't know that
CMD.
you know. So command prompt is CMDs, like that's how you like find it easily.
Mhm.
But let me share my screen real quick and show you. When you see it, you're instantly scared, right? Like that's it's like you're like, what hacker is about to hack my things?
Yeah.
Right? Like immediately I'm like, I have gotten to some place like the
Yeah.
instinctual reaction that I have in my body is that
Mhm.
I have just gotten someplace that is gonna make my computer start like it's combusted, gonna turn into fire. Like right now. Like that is the thing. Like I'm like, I like who's about to hack me, like,
Mhm.
just things are
It
about to
looks like
happen.
the DOS system, but not green.
Yeah, but this is how you execute Python. And so, like, if you have anything that's logic based, so say you have your big stack of 50 invoices and you just want to pull all the text from those 50 invoices. And so you're looking for a Python type called OCR. And like literally, you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to go and pay for somebody else to do like this one-off little thing. Like you don't like I as a human can just code it and just say pull all the text and it will talk me through each one of those steps. And it's just like, how many processes are out there that's just like, let's scan a bunch of PDFs or let's write a Boolean search that takes you up like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour to do?
Mhm.
Like, what'd you cut down to? Be honest
Yeah.
here. How much time do you used to spend writing the perfect like
Oh
Boolean
my gosh.
search?
It could take, I mean, it could take 5 minutes, could take 30 minutes. I've spent an hour on a Boolean search just because I'm so desperate to find results.
That
And
one needle.
yeah, and here's the deal, y'all. What we were talking about with it's not, remember you used to use the word cheating.
Mhm.
It's not cheating. Do you know how much more time and energy I had to actually look at candidate profiles and really decide whether they were a good fit or not, and be very thoughtful about my messaging to them, how to outreach them, and just overall strategy wise? Hugely. It was huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, cool. So that's one use case, and I was just popping back up my screen. What
Mhm.
was your other use case?
Um, I know a while back we talked about Carve, which is
Yeah,
nothing.
your
Well,
transcription butler. I
yeah,
just like the name
transcription
of
butler for
them.
sure. Um, the only point I want to make about it is, which again is another point of the humans have to stay. They're going to stay relevant. We have the responsibility of making sure that happens, but it's just naturally going to happen. There are things that Carve pops out all the time, and even though it has the transcript, even though it listened to the same conversation that I was a part of, something's just it needs the human touch. It gets some things wrong. I don't know why. It could be it doesn't, the tone makes things different and it can't really pick up on tone. It just picks up on words, you name it. But so
I would also
yeah.
I would also say models matter. And so these companies that we are signing subscriptions up to that are companies are like, they need to make sure that when the models upgrade, like I have the option to decide between the two models. Like your
Mhm.
job as a company is to lower costs. And so if you listen to a company like Box Storage, right? So the name of the game of storage used to be how close could you predict how cheap storage was going to get for you for a year from now? And that's why you can take advantage of something called Moore's Law, which is like that kind of doubling of processing and that's consistent for most things tech. And so what these companies would do would they would take a gamble on what they thought the tech cost would be a year from now. Well, now you have all these AI companies that aren't really doing that. I feel like they're doing the like almost like the you use it and we charge you for your use of it. Well, their APIs are just constantly going down. But
Mm,
your cost is remaining the exact same, even though they're still using the same model that gets outdated every 3 months. They're still using, and on top of that, every time somebody fine tunes a model that gets a little bit better grade and then they open source that, they're just hot swapping it for the cheapest things that like whenever you figured out the prompt and you figured out the way that your UX applies to AI, they're just doing it. And so us
mhm.
as users, we're just going to start coding our own access points that is unique to the way that we like to access AI. Like, truth be told,
Interesting.
creating a platform to like join a meeting, transcribe the meeting, give you access to that transcription on like a somewhat real world basis. That coding you could probably do realistically. You could create for yourself if you had like access to it. Like you could just you knew network and systems and like all that sort of stuff. Somebody is good at coding could probably code that up in about 2 hours. That's
Wow.
somebody good at coding.
Yeah.
Somebody like me and you that's just willing to like hammer our heads against the wall until we figure it out. That's maybe like I want to give it a weekend. It's a weekend
Yeah.
on coding right now. And so all these companies that are like making like you're signing up for transcription and like all the people that are like really excited that they get to add Carve to the meeting because it transcribes for you and you get to like get to the best transcription. Like you as Mr. CEO better be knowing that like that model that's being used today is going to get 5x better a year from now and you're still going to
Yeah.
be paying. And not only is models going to get 5x that better, but the model that you signed up for is already 5 models old a year from now. And so
I'm gonna have
you're
our owner ask Carve what model they're using and see if it can't help him negotiate the price.
I what's um, what's a little bit what I feel like is what's happened to the market is like I feel like a lot of people are negotiating based upon like how the tech world used to be. Like I feel
Mhm.
like people are asking all the questions that answered all the right question like answers in the old world where tech wasn't moving as quickly as it's moving right now, where it's like you have these like major players and like, but now it's like all the major players are firing all their people and all those people are just going and creating their own little company. And like they're just like being so nimble, and like the coding, because the coding has just gotten so much easier. Like we for a weekend, if we just like, if you could lock me in a freaking closet, lock me in a closet and said, Josh, you can't leave this closet until you've built Carve. I'm telling you, I would be able to build it in a weekend. Like I'm telling you right now, I could build it in a weekend. Do I want to? No.
Yeah.
That sounds
And Miss
awful.
Anderson's steps? No way.
We're not doing that. But this is the worst it's ever going to get.
That's wild.
This is the
Can you
worst.
say that again for the listeners?
This is the worst it's ever going to get.
Did you hear that, Holly? The worst.
Every little time that you enter something into ChatGPT and it like, or you transcribe something and it's a little bit off, and you're just like, man, just AI is just not there yet. It's just not there yet.
Mm.
It's like the bar just keeps getting moved. Like I feel like there's a human thing that we're just like, but can it do this? And it's just like, this is just not the right way of thinking about it, because you just have to really, really start getting to using it before like you understand how quick it's going. And like you can start, I've heard people refer to it like people in businesses used to be really good at skating to where the puck is going. Well, now the puck is just disappearing. It's teleporting. And so you've got to guess where the next teleportation is going to happen, because we're going. OpenAI had a, to my knowledge, an unscheduled live event yesterday. They teleported. Something was not available, and then they just made it available. And I don't know how many companies that have been spun up using their platform as like a wrapper. They all just got better. Like they all just got brand new tools to go and play and do stuff with. And it's like, every time you think about like, it's just, this is the worst moment that it's ever going to be. And God damn, it's pretty good. Like it's so good already.
Please tell me this is a segue.
It is a segue.
Yes, because if hopefully our listeners are excited as I am so ready to hear more about this.
So Manus is coming up. So we are in the year of agents. We're in the year of AI agents, and I'm really disappointed in myself that it's March and it's like the first time I've said the year of the agents, because that is like what every AI prognosticator is. But I would say 2024, at the beginning of 2024, everybody was saying that it was the year of the agent. So we have our first supposed agent that is ready to go for prescriptive things. So agent, and we're going to listen to a video that describes it later, but before this thing, agent, you can define it loosely as something that goes and does something autonomously for me on my behalf on the internet. It's kind of like somewhere in the technological sphere, we're going and doing a thing that like I've given the goal, but I am not doing the steps. So let's go ahead and watch this real quick.
Let's see it.
Hi, I'm Pete from Manus AI. For the past year, we've been quietly building what we believe is the next evolution in AI. And today, we're launching an early preview of Manus, the first general AI agent. This isn't just another chatbot or workflow. It's a truly autonomous agent that bridges the gap between conception and execution. While other AI stops at generating ideas, Manus delivers results. We see it as the next paradigm of human-machine collaboration, and potentially a glimpse into AGI. Now let me show you Manus in action across 3 completely different tasks.
AGI being artificial general intelligence.
Let's start with an easy one. In this example, we'll ask Manus to help screen resumes. I've just sent Manus a zip file containing 10 resume documents. Since each Manus session has its own computer, it can work like a human. First unzipping the file, then browsing through each resume page by page, and recording important information to documents. Manus works asynchronously in the cloud, which means you can close your laptop anytime, and Manus will notify you when everything is complete. Of course, you can also give Manus new instructions at any time. Here I've sent Manus 5 more resumes. After carefully reading all 15 resumes, Manus provides the ranking suggestions along with candidate profiles and evaluation criteria as supporting materials. This is pretty good, but I prefer a spreadsheet. Let's have Manus create one.
This is nuts.
Manus has its own knowledge and memory, so it can teach Manus that the next time it handles a similar task, it will deliver a spreadsheet right away. In this example, we'll have Manus conduct some research. It needs to filter New York properties based on multiple criteria. For complex tasks, Manus first breaks them down and creates a to-do list. Manus begins by searching and carefully reading articles about the safest neighborhoods. Then Manus researches middle schools in New York. Next, Manus writes a Python program to calculate my budget. Based on my budget, Manus filters listings on real estate websites. Finally, combining all the information gathered, Manus writes a detailed report and compiles all the resources. In this example, we have Manus perform a correlation analysis between stocks. For professional data, Manus can access authoritative data sources through APIs. After validating the acquired data, Manus begins writing code for data analysis and visualization. For Manus, coding isn't necessarily the goal, but rather a universal tool for solving problems. It looks like Manus has completed the data analysis and visualization. But interactive data visualization is even cooler, so I asked Manus to create a website based on these data. With my permission, Manus deploys the finished website online and provides me with a shareable link. Let's see what Manus has created. What you've just seen is just a small sample of what Manus can do. In fact, on benchmarks designed to evaluate general AI assistants, an early checkpoint of Manus has already achieved state-of-the-art performance, and it's only getting better. Beyond benchmark.
Wow.
They have another example of things that they've done. Again, worst it's ever going to get. I'm a skeptic at heart. So I don't believe any non-live AI anythings anymore. So if you can't replicate it doing it in front of me in a live stream, I just don't believe you. So for first thing, I don't think it's there yet, but that's probably the best video of where I believe we're headed.
This is the worst it's going to be, at least.
This is the worst it's ever going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's only going to get better. It's only going to get cheaper. And by the way, it's moving at a faster rate than any of us have ever experienced. And so it's going to hit everybody really hard. But man, this is just going to be a renaissance for us where I can just carve, not in a weekend where I'm trapped inside of a closet, but I can just create carve because I'm about to join a meeting and I don't have access to the internet, and my recording device is a cloud reporting device, and I just need to create something locally on my computer, and I need something to transcribe for me. And can you just do that? And like 30 minutes later, it's done. Like what I just said seems crazy because we have to go into command prompt to write like a Python code. But like somebody somewhere is going to figure out the command prompt is the scariest thing that's ever happened to anybody that's not tech related, like tech. And they're going to figure out, oh, we just need to put like a nice screen in front of this and people will start coding. And then like, oh, we don't have to like save files before we like execute those files, and like all the weird things that you have to do with they're just going to think of something and they're going to do it. And so there's been like these leaks that's been coming out of OpenAI that they're planning on like this costing firms like $20,000 a year. Like this is like I go and rent an agent and it does all the things that it was just doing for me, and it's $20,000 a year cost. The reason why I don't believe that this is where they are actually at is because what is actually happening in the background. So you always have to keep in mind that everybody that is doing things with AI is all just touching the same orb with the same kind of like tools, right? Whenever you poke it, it's going to come out on the other side. And these are the unique ways of poking it. Like you just always have to keep coming back to the framework of that. And then you then understand that they very clearly have some type of scripting that is automated that is always going to start with a reasoning model. The reasoning model is your model that creates the deep research prompt. The deep research prompt goes into finds out all the information that you would need to do for that single area. Then there's another reasoning model that sees like synthesizes that down. Here's all the steps that you need to take. I'm always going to answer it in like the quickest, snappiest way possible. And by the way, I'm going to try and get my prompts to continuously be like one of those atomic prompts that are like in like these like short little steps. And so like when you think about these agents that are being built as just like layering of the same orb that we all have parts of, like you start to get how like the world around this ecosystem is being built. And so it gives you a good framework to actually understand what the tools that come out that actually does this. Because what this is telling me is like they have somehow gotten a prompt generator. Like I love prompting to get to prompts. Small one of like secret sauce do the best work if you can figure out how to prompt to get to a prompt. I still get it wrong. Like, even though I'm prompting to get to a prompt and my final prompt that was supposed to do the first prompt still gets wrong and I still need to do some adjustments. And I forget that images is actually how most people are referring to Twitter posts. And I need to make sure that that's included in my prompt. And so when I look at like, they can just create an agent that's going to go and do all these things, I'm like, okay, you've created prompts. It's going to create prompts. It's going to create prompts. It's going to create prompts. And you get into like this telephone game of like actual outputs. And I know that like I'm oversimplifying things, but like the minus like this little bitty tweak that you had on step 1 could affect all of step 6. And it's like when you start to get that layering to it, I don't think we're there yet. But man, are we headed there? Are we like because then when for every single as it gets cheaper, every single time you have a decision tree where it's like I'm got to a prompt that got to another prompt, and you can just put 2 frameworks that goes to the exact same to the exact same endpoint, and then you have another prompt that's just supposed to decide between the best one. And if there's the same, then we're great. Like that's how these agents are going to get built, and they're going to get built with smaller and smaller models, and that's how you get to these bigger like use cases of them. So again, shout out to Manus. They're a Chinese company, by the way, and supposedly they're going to open source some of this stuff like 9 months from now. But man, has the world changed in 9 months. So again,
what will it be in 9 months?
With the frontier people, right? When ChatGPT starts coming out with this, when OpenAI starts coming out with it, they do for sure. That's why that's conspiracy corner. That's why all these software engineers are leaving, because they just have software engineer bots that they all control. So that was my first AI in the news. Sydney, thoughts?
I guess one, wow, like you can't listen to that and not be mind blown. My thought is for our sweet Hollies of the world, I guess my thought is more of a question to you. What could give people like that? I don't know if hope's the right word, but like, I don't know. It feels like if you're already behind, you're really behind. You're more behind than you think you are. And so how do we bring people like that along for the ride?
Yeah, I think that I just continuously go back to using AI to learn AI. Like every time, like I'm like, man, what would be the best way of like poking the orb today? Like when like the whenever I'm trying to figure out if I can just articulate what my goal is, I want to cook dinner. And
Mhm.
like if I can just articulate, like ask me if I can just say, I'm feeling down today, ask me 3 questions. Like if I start asking it to do things that I am directionally going towards,
Mhm.
it's so much better of just like naturally like progressing, you know.
Yeah.
And like the more and more you use it in like the dumb ways, the better you get with it in the sophisticated ways. Like I need to get better here of like showing the dumb ways that I use ChatGPT,
Yeah,
like
I'd
the
like to
ways
see
that
those.
like the ways that the things that like would make me feel like an idiot for
Mhm.
showing people, like I need to show those more often because like
Yeah.
it starts to give a picture of like when you have unlimited access to all this. Like I'll tell you a way. I
Let's hear it.
had an idea that I could create a automated YouTube channel that was about fun historical facts of just random ideas that Josh had. And there was one day, I have no idea how this even came up, but I was like, what, like, at what point in society do women trick all of men to put this toilet seat down? Like, there was a moment in time. When did the toilet seat become a thing? And then, like, I kind of like went down this like rabbit hole of like, just like, what? Okay, that's a crazy question, but like this has been like a cultural thing. So
Mhm.
I have to like if I could just do a research prompt that then like pulled every movie reference that ever had talking about the seat going up and down. If I
Yeah.
do every book reference that like would be like the cultural like zeitgeist. Like I did a whole deep research prompt on this. And then I was going to create like this narrative like where it's like an AI robot that or like that's like the human species in their natural habitat, like that type of like thing.
You
And I
did
was
all
gonna create
that?
a I got all the way to the research prompt and then I
Wow.
felt these are the things that I do at like 10:30 at night when I
I
can't
know,
sleep.
this is so
Um,
helpful to hear. I love it.
and then I fell asleep while it's doing the research prompt, which is
Uh-huh.
like you're like if you do a really good research prompt, like it's always my thing. It's like, is it going to be a 5 minute research prompt? Is it 2 minute research prompt or a 15 minute research prompt?
Uh-huh.
And I would like to think that this toilet one was a 15 minute research prompt. And so I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I was like, wow, never telling anybody about that.
And here we are, folks.
So when
Well,
you get curious about random stuff, like you just
yeah, and you use it.
instead of going down a Google warp hole that doesn't interact with me, like I just want to have a 5 minute story about how we got to a world where toilet seats being down is the expectation and not like a privilege. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not that I'm a leave the toilet seat up kind of guy. Let me put this out to the world.
Okay,
I'm
now,
gonna put the
Josh.
I'm gonna put the seat down, okay? This
What
isn't
a
even an
gent.
argument in our house, okay? Like my wife is probably gonna watch this and be like, "Why were you thinking about that?" I don't know why I think about these things.
Because you
Uh,
can. It's at your
because you,
fingertips. You can. So why not? Yeah, why
yeah,
not?
what was the first movie? You know the scene where it's like a wife and a husband. It's like like
Mhm.
back and forth. Like, what was the first movie that did that?
Yeah.
Like, sure, I could Google that, but what is the Google what is the Google experience of getting to that answer?
You just search and you are sent back a couple of links. Now, at the top, they do have their own little AI response,
Okay, but
but
before
there's no
AI,
conversation. Oh, yeah, the Google was just a bunch of links that you
yeah.
could go
So
to and then hopefully find the info if you follow the links. But you have to follow all the links and then sort through the information that was in the link.
and then you have to read a bunch of stuff about toilets,
Yeah.
like, like I don't want to I'm like that. like I'm wanting to create a fun
Anderson is
YouTube.
taking his first steps. We don't need to do this type
We
of research.
don't need to do that. Like I'm wanting to create a YouTube video about the history of seats being put down. I'm not trying to read about toilets.
That's
Like,
hilarious.
and look, like the old experience, the Holly experience that's happening right now is like you
Mhm.
have a world of people that's still living in Google, and you have a world of people that's living in ChatGPT, and they can ask the exact question and get the exact answer if they know how to ask the
Mhm.
question. And it's like the old method is like I just have to go and like read a bunch of stuff, and like that makes learning just inherently painful.
Mhm.
Like every time I want to learn a specific thing, tell me the answer. Like
Yeah.
I'm not conservative
And let me
about
ask
this.
questions and
Yeah,
have a conversation. So I'm gonna yes and you, and then I'm gonna
yeah.
further what we're saying here. One, the thing that I said that seemed to solve it for a while at least. JD, if you're listening, you might not agree with me, but I just told him to shut down that argument. I said, "What? Do you need an extra inch on your circumference, or do you just don't maybe get better aim?" You know? So whoever said y'all had to lift the seat, you know? And so I'll leave that there. And then the other thing for me is when you try to think about what is this left behindedness, anxiety that you're feeling when you think about how quickly AI is moving and all that, where does that come from? And I think the biggest thing for me that has been helpful for me to realize that I'm hoping will be helpful to somebody else, just at least one other person. AI is not meant to make you do this massive thing with it. You're not meant to take AI and capitalize off of it. If you feel called to do that and you happen to have the right skill sets and experience or even interest that will lead you to that, that is awesome. The reality is AI is just something that is going to help you do what you do better, help you be you better. So when you talk about whether you're a stay-at-home mom and it just helps you put together a better grocery list so you spend less time preparing to go to the grocery store and more time hanging out with your kid, or taking a nap, like when you put the kid down for a nap and you're exhausted, but I got to get my grocery list together and you can't relax, it's just going to help you have more time to be a better you. For me, for instance, I like to use it for therapy. I like to use it to help me be more efficient with my recruiting tasks so that I can focus more on being on the phone with the human that's on the other end of the phone call with me. Or one of my favorite things, which I'm so jealous you get paid to just brainstorm AI, but like, how can it help HR or humans more? How can it help put human into the human resources function? Um, so it's just stuff like that. So for those who are feeling overwhelmed, lean in a little bit and ask yourself, okay, overwhelm, why are you here? Why am I feeling this way? And I hope it guides you to knowing that it's just going to help you be better you in whatever capacity that is, personally, professionally, keeping the toilet seat down, you know.
Doing a 11:30 at night random research about
Yeah.
it.
It's
And you
just
know what?
fun. Have fun. Just have fun with it, you know?
There was a little part of me that was like, man, I just wasted those electricity tokens for that.
There's
15
so many
minutes.
electricity tokens.
There's so many electricity
Yeah.
tokens.
Just go to
Oh,
Starbucks and use their Wi-Fi and give your home electricity a break, okay? If that's what you're
there.
really worried about.
Well, no, when you send these things off to like think, you gotta think like there's like some massive computer somewhere just it's just going like just like
Squeezing its
you're
brain.
you're you're like one question that you're asking. It's just like
How did that go?
it's a hamster on a wheel. Yeah, just squeezing it. Um, so yeah, no, that's truthfully that's exactly what AI is. I think there is certainly a world where there's just a bunch of me's going around and nerding out about it, but there's also so much of a more world that's just like, dude, I just like tell me what's in my pantry, tell me what I need for these 3 meals. automate my grocery list. And then like I thought that I wanted to walk around the grocery store, but like I'm in the middle of like this like weird nap moment and I just need to pick up my groceries instead of going into the grocery store. Like switch that, and like
Mhm.
it's just like a bunch of robots go and get your stuff real quick, and it's no longer like a few hours of waiting because you're waiting for like people to actually go and get it. Like it's just
Yeah.
like half of that time is just like people searching like where is this thing at. Now we're just going to have a bunch of like robots that are out there getting this stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
talking a few years from now, I'm not talking about tomorrow.
Mhm.
Tomorrow the pain, like the some at some point in the short term, there is going to be pain, just of a labor shift. There's going to be pain of like there's specific jobs that just um that knowledge base. You just don't need as many people to do the jobs that are like some people are going to do. And so it's just like there's going to be a labor shift, but the
Mhm.
amount of jobs that are going to be created by this, like I
Yeah.
think we come up every single day that's just like, well, what about X, Y, and Z? Like, what about this, and this? And it's like, yeah, there's going to be so much. It's going to be a renaissance. It truly is going to be a human renaissance, and you just get to experience the greatest time ever to be a human.
Mhm.
Like that's what you're about to go through, and it's probably going to have some scary moments. But it's definitely going to, at the end of the day, it's going to be just right
Mhm.
there. It's going to be
Let
good.
yourself fall into that wherever you fit in.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I love
yeah.
it.
Well, Sydney, I have up, um, OpenAI came out with a new API tool this
Okay.
year, and it was, or not this year, but today or yesterday they live streamed and announced it. Um, I have It's a 19-minute video. We were going to watch it together. I had some timestamps that we were going to skip through.
Mhm.
That sounds awful right now. And so I'm just going to summarize it for you guys, and we're just
Okay.
going to talk about like why I really want you to go and watch it. I
We'll
really
include the
want
link.
you, the viewer. It's going to be definitely on here. Um, to start, however, I am going to play. I've got it on here. I am going to play the first minute 17, and
Okay.
then I'm going to skip ahead real quick, and then we're going to watch a 2-minute segment.
Sounds good.
And I'll kind of talk through it. So let me go to it. And again, live streams. It's the only way you can demonstrate AI, for the record.
Yeah.
Every time, live
And in
stream.
particular, we're excited to launch a bunch of new tools that make it easy for developers to build reliable and useful agents. Now, when we say agent, we mean a system that can act independently to do tasks on your behalf. And we've launched 2 agents this year in ChatGPT. The first is Operator, which can browse the web and do things for you on the web. The second is Deep Research, which can create detailed reports for you on any topic you want. So you give it a topic, and it can go off and do what might be a week's worth of research for you and come back with an answer in 15 minutes. The feedback for those has been fantastic. But we want to now launch those tools and more in the API to developers. So we've spent the last couple months going around talking to developers all over the world about.
Okay. So what he's talking about is API. So when I've talked about Orb throughout this show, I'm just like, API is literally you've got to think of it as a waiter that's taking your order back to the kitchen, right? So you're sitting at a table and you say, I want X, Y, and Z, and their job is to go back and explain to the chef in a way that the chef will understand to make X, Y, Z. And so what an API does is like literally just this handshake coded, like hard coded. I tell you to do X, Y, and Z, and you do X, Y, and Z. And
Okay.
both systems understand a read and a write. So you're literally just writing in text. This is the state of what is happening. This is how systems talk to one another. And again, the reason I want you to watch these videos is because, again, when you think of AI as this big orb that is able to create pictures and able to create videos and do all these like research prompts and control a computer and like click the buttons and like do things for you. It's all the same engine. You are just touching the engine in different ways to get different outputs. So all these companies that have like AI as like part of their name, they're touching the same engine just in different spots of this orb. And every time they touch it here, something else different comes down over here. And so APIs, they give developers, they give programmers the ability to touch the orb in different kinds of ways. And so when they talk about giving developers new tools, they're saying, hey, we added like a turbocharger to this engine, and the only way you get to flip the turbocharger on is touching it in this way. And they just give the tools to the developers to be able to do that. And so when you understand the APIs, the way that the waiter is communicating things, you start to be able to predict how the world is going to start touching that orb in different ways. And so if you can understand where we are today, when you have Carve come to your meeting and his only job is to transcribe that, I can tell you that is, if you had everything local on your computer and you just wanted Carve to listen to an audio, that is about 20 lines in Python. And the hardest part of that information is just connecting it to OpenAI to like have their Whisper AI like listen to your mic.
Okay.
And so it's just touching the engine in a different way. So
okay.
when they talk about APIs and they talk about new tools that they're giving them, they're giving it to everybody at the exact same moment. And so everybody's going to start taking these tools and applying it to their existing AI components. And so if you've got a transcription thing that has an agent function to it, an agent is defined as takes this information and does things for me on my behalf in the software space, he's now going to have a bunch of tools to be able to go and do those things. So it's just tools in the toolbox, right? So we talk about deep research, ability to go out and think and learn about how to do certain things and like what is the state of the world in certain areas, right? Operator going and clicking on your button. So he's talking about the fact that those two things already exist to ChatGPT Pro people, and we're just going to give the tools to our developers to be able to go and do that stuff. So let's skip ahead to
that agents need. But on the other hand, developers feel like they're having to cobble together different low-level APIs from different sources. It's difficult, it's slow, it often feels brittle. So today we're really excited to bring that together into a series of tools and a new API and an open source SDK to make this a lot easier. So with that, let me introduce the team.
Yeah, hi,
all right. Tell that back to me based upon everything that I've just talked to you about.
I was actually about to ask you to replay it.
Okay.
I think the listener might need it too.
Yeah.
Reasoning with multimodal understanding, our models can now do the kind of complex multi-step workflows that agents need. But on the other hand, developers feel like they're having to cobble together different low-level APIs from different sources. It's difficult, it's slow, it often feels brittle. So today we're really excited to bring that together into a series of tools and a new API and an open source SDK to make this a lot easier. So with that, let me introduce the team.
Yeah.
All right. So what did you just say?
Explain an API user.
An API is the waiter.
The waiter. That is right.
So the user is the inventor of Carve that has created this UX that is aligned along certain things. So we saw
hired this waiter. They have this waiter, this API.
And it's just reading and writing in whatever fashion, whatever language like whether it's so if you've got an image, really, like it's got an API that's specific, it's a vectorized like coding language that's specific to images. It's the waiter is using that in a very specific way. And so what OpenAI did with their APIs, like they've defined unique ways to handle somebody's data at a point. And that in the way that they've communicated, you can only communicate with O's and ones in computers, right? And so what they do is they put it in text, and again, you're just handshaking to the orb, like you're just telling it what the current state and what you're wanting from it for is. And in just a second, they'll pop up on here, their code, but I am going to push play if that made sense.
Well, so just to answer your question, it sounds like what coders are complaining about is they have a bunch of different waiters that are technically, if you think about it, are working in different restaurants, and you're sitting in one restaurant.
Yep.
And you don't want to have to call the waiter at Chipotle and call the waiter at Sweetgreen to get what you want at Cava.
Yeah.
How'd I do?
Yeah. You've got a waiter that every time he leaves the store, he has put on different shoes. And when he walks into another store to like pick up your food, he's got to put on a different pair of shoes. Like that's how these APIs have worked, right? Every system kind of has their own way of communicating, and they need to be informed of a specific state. So when you think about putting stacking, right? Again, all an agent is wanting to do is stack this ability to reason, the ability to do research. Like, how do I do this thing? Like, I just want you to write 2 pages on how to do this one thing. And so before I go and do that thing, that prompt that generates a prompt, like that's the phase that you're trying to duplicate with agents. And what these people are having to do, you've got a video message over here, you've got an image agent over here, you've got an image AI over here, a video AI over here, you've got a text AI over here, you have a reasoning model over here. You like all these different types of AIs, like this same sphere, the same orb that you're still touching, all like to be talked to in different ways. And these tools are just different ways of talking to it. What they're saying is, like, from a developer standpoint, the environment has been really cloudy. So when OpenAI came out with their AI models, like the first time anybody's ever seen any of this stuff, like what does it mean to connect to a natural language processor? Like that's what you're trying to do. You're just trying to talk to it in a specific way. When you look at an API spec of like the most complicated of AI related chatbots, it's literally just prompts. It's literally carved. The way that they're connecting to OpenAI to do the transcription is you are a transcriber AI. Listen to these message, put it into a summary format. Like that is it that Carve is doing. That is how it, and here's the file, the audio. And by the way, it's in the way that you like to receive it, which is in 30-second chunks. And I've done the Python coding that will put all those files into specific libraries. You can go grab them, and then I'll do the coding to put them all together. But like all the coding stuff, that's me. I'm still just connecting to you in the way that you would like to be connected. So like when you think of every single AI tool that is out there, they are all connecting to the same orb. There might be different versions. There might be a cheaper version over here that kind of gets what you're wanting to do. There might be a frontier version that's the 99.99999 correctness to like whatever scale. And there's different costs in between, but it does essentially the same things type of deal. So what they're saying is like everybody's been using their own modeling. So what OpenAI is doing is when they did it the first time, they created what is called a OpenAI AI spec, or API spec, which is just like this is the documentation that you should use whenever you're trying to connect to my system. and they're
Mhm.
just giving those guys more tools. And so, what I really wanted to just kind of communicate is when these companies start rolling the things out, you can go watch the same level of information that
Mhm.
the creators of your AI business is using to create the things that you are wanting. So they are taking your requests
Mhm.
and writing prompts, like physically writing prompts
Mhm.
that connect to it using the tools that they are outlining. So if you understand the tools, you can better understand how to communicate how to get there. Right.
Mm.
So it
Which
is
takes me
like,
back to you talking about what different models of ChatGPT to use for different reasons. It's kinda like that.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a, when you talk about like predicting where the hockey puck is going to, and like
Mhm.
I say, the hockey puck keeps teleporting.
Mhm.
When you start paying attention to the developer tools, like you can predict where the hockey puck is going to go. Like
Mm.
if you can say, "Oh, this is a tool that everybody just got access to at the exact same time," which, by the way, they have like their like beta testers that they give it to like their early users. It's like they're like, "Hey, break this thing." So like the best of the
Mhm.
best AI companies out the world, they get like a few months preview of what you're going to do because they need the OpenAI has to use their feedback to make their tool develop better. This API spec is open source, so literally the Manus AI company
Mhm.
can go and use that spec. So what they haven't talked about yet is that the API spec that they're doing is literally its best use case is actually keeping frame of reference coherence throughout a conversation. And so basically you're talking like they didn't specifically say that. I'm trying to put it in, it's like agents talking to agents. Well, if you need you to, in order for you to understand what this agent is doing, it's probably best if you understand the entire prompt conversation that got there.
Mhm.
It's probably best that you understand the full context in which the agent's trying to do things. And so what they've done with these tools is like given like the developers you new ways of tracing the same conversation that you've been having, and that way like you keep the same context user profile, so you know how like ChatGPT feels like little
Like it knows
magical to
us.
me, it
Mhm.
like it knows us. That's because
Specific
they've
to
got
us,
like a
yeah.
profile context to it. Well, now
Mhm.
they're giving the tool for the API user, the developer, to like, hey, you can now label all your users as this person. So every time they interact with your AI that's interacting with my API, I'm just going to refer to them as profile 100000 whatever.
Mhm.
And I now can keep context of what you've been talking to them with. And so they're just giving them tools to be able to do the things where like agents kind of can keep coherence of like what is the current state of things so that they can go and try to execute the problem the best way. And so the more context and more grounding that you can do with these
Mhm.
APIs, the better they get. And so what this API that they released yesterday, again, you can figure out how AI is going to be applied using these developer tools. You can figure out where the hockey puck is going. So
Mhm.
this is not for a Holly, but this is for the CTO. This is for the CEO that's trying to decide their AI like policy. Hey, the hockey puck just
Mhm.
disappeared. Everything that you thought you knew about where the hockey puck was going, hey, it just disappeared. But you can get kind of the general area of where it's going to pop back up by understanding the developer tools they just released to accessing the same orb. So, like, again, if you just keep thinking of it like I poke here, something else comes back down over here. The how I poke it is the only way that matters. And how I poke it is literally me writing a prompt that says, I'm poking you in this way. Like,
Mm, mhm.
you start to like layer those things together, and now you start to get a framework for how to understand AI as a CTO, as a CEOs, as those types of people.
Man, and I don't think, because when you think about, I mean, it depends, right? But when you think about CTOs, because I've recruited for a couple of CTOs. They're there with experience, years
Yep.
of experience, and they got there,
Mm.
and the years of experience may be completely irrelevant at this point.
Yeah,
And
I
you
think
really have to adjust the way that you think, which is where I'm talking to people about your skill set is going to go to how critically can you think
Mhm.
about that, and so it's just interesting to think about how the landscape of a CTO even could change and whether a CTO is actually providing value. And really, it's just around, are they adjusting the way that they think?
Well, I think what's really difficult about this moment is that the space that you typically like the brain type, the way that the person that typically fills the role of a CTO, like you're typically coming from like some type of engineering background. You're typically coming from like a linear like algebra style, like calculus, like rules based background that like you kind of understand like how things progress throughout a cycle. Like,
Mhm.
I think what is unique about AI is that like your base instincts might actually get you in trouble. Like the won like skill sets that you've like been able to get by seeing change over time and understanding that this stuff is not just a flash in the pan. Like those like weird things that just naturally come with age, like the weird frameworks that you get, they might be said like what used to be such a good thing for you in your career and how you progressed, they might now start to become a hindrance to you because you really do have to think about like this magical orb fits in the helicopter, it fits in the
Mhm.
boat, it fits in the car, it powers it, it's able to move all those things through space, and it's able to do it all at the same consistent rate. And the way that I tell that orb to power my car is by talking to it. And it's literally understanding that as like these developers are developing AI tools and they're connected to the same orb, like they're just talking to it in a better way that the developer tools are allowing them to talk to it.
Hmm.
So there's different ways to like kind of hijack and like do like again, you go if you really like want to understand AI, go and watch the API like developer tools conference that they had back in like 21, 22. Like that
Mhm.
first like developer conference, it's like it's several hours. Sydney, like this was like a week long, like like some of these are they're all live streams that exist on YouTube. But they're really long segments. And but the more that you understand where we've come from, how just really it is talking to this thing and just
Mhm.
explain like the environment that it exists in and assigning like your carve has a system prompt. So when I do a custom prompt on my GPT that says like always answer with your um with your um confidence level. That's called a system prompt and it's always going to answer that way. Carve has a system prompt. Whatever AI tool has a system prompt that's informing it, hey, you're a transcriber. And this is like the type of information that you're going to get. And I always want you to review your notes.
Mhm.
Like it's literally writing it down like that. Uh,
Mhm.
and so that's how you start to get to know when the where the puck is teleporting to.
Yeah. I think it might be helpful. We might have to talk offline on how to make that more digestible for some of our listeners.
Yeah.
And I'll own it, even for me too. But
I don't think it's
we
for everybody either. Like I think there's a certain level of like when you get to understand how systems talk to one another, like whenever you're like trying to explain data tables to one system to another data like system, you just start to get to like an awareness of how all this kind of functions together.
Mhm.
And so when that slowly starts creeping in, just like paragraphs of like, I want you to do this, 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 and this, and you're like, that's not coding. You realize like, no, that's where the world's going. Like
Mm.
words makes codes, codes make words, words make codes, codes make words. And like that is how you get the Manus AI.
Yeah.
And that's where that's how we get to robotics. Like there's like this step leads to this step that leads to this step that leads to this step. So highly recommend truly trying to understand the developer tools, because they're the exact same tools to the exact same engine to all the developers that use them at the exact same time. So
No, what was the conference again that you mentioned?
the conference, oh, it's a developers conference.
Developers conference.
Just
I
search
remember
like
when it was going
OpenAI
on.
developers.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Also for our
it's
listeners.
essentially like the way context that you would probably understand it is like the first year that GPT 3.5 came out, you had all these companies that came out that was like just essentially wrappers. That's why they call it a wrapper. It's like literally you're just like wrapping your like little user experience around a system prompt that's prompting this thing in the way that you're wanting to interact with it with. And basically when ChatGPT started throwing the abilities into its like main chat, like it
Mhm.
was just destroying companies that had spun up using their developer tools. And so it's like it's kind of like now they've kind of flipped it where you start to get like the real tools in the pro, and you get to kind of get your feel of what deep research does, kind of get your feel of what operator does,
Mhm.
and then they give you the tools to be able to do that with the API. Before, they gave you the API and it had all the advanced tools. People created a bunch of things, and then they started putting the advanced tools into ChatGPT, and it was like destroying these companies overnight. And so now they kind of flipped it where they give you the tools in ChatGPT at like the more expensive tiers, and
Mhm.
then they give you the tools to be able to control those in like your API, so you're connected to your user experience. Um, so
Specific to you.
specific to you,
Mhm.
yeah. So, well, I've done enough rambling today. Sydney, who would you send this episode to?
Um, anyone you think that would if you are feeling as burnt out by this conversation as I possibly.
No.
Well, here's the deal. I'm still enjoying it. I'm
Okay, cool.
enjoying this conversation. I just want to say that in case other listeners are like, man, maybe I'm not smart enough for this podcast. I too feel somewhat that way, and it's okay. Just enjoy the conversation and try and grasp what you can of it. And the more and more you come along with us on this journey, the more and more you're going to understand it. I understand way more now about AI than before we started this podcast. So that's not anything to shame you, Josh. I think it's so cool that you have so much knowledge and you are really good at breaking it down in a way that's digestible. There's just only so much digestion, you know? So anyone who's feeling overwhelmed, you're not alone. It's just me. It's not just me. It's me too. Like I'm sure that there are other people as well. I'm sure there are people like Josh on here. It's like totally get it, dude. What's up with Sydney? You know?
If anybody really experienced an AI is watching this, like they're probably just be like, Josh is an idiot. Like Josh is like, like
This guy's an
that's,
amateur, and
but
Sydney's
like
just
I am like, so the fact that like it might feel overwhelming to you, I
Mhm,
am so empathetic to that,
mhm,
because like like I need to like I'm so excited about this future,
mhm.
and the quicker I can get the people that I love to what this future is going to be,
Yeah,
like the quicker that we get to enjoy what this moment is going to be for all of us,
and
or be
together,
scared by the
yeah.
moment that's going to be for all this. Like
Yeah.
we're just going to understand what the world is going to be. So I'm constantly trying to figure out how to reframe like the jumps that like I like is very predictable because of like my understanding of what AI is and like
Mhm.
where this is going and like what's very clearly been the progress of this thing. And I'm constantly trying to figure out how to like synthesize my like explanation. Like at full conversations have been had trying to explain what an API is before I came up with the waiter
Yeah,
analogy. Uh, so um,
it's a great analogy. It made sense. It helped me consume what you were walking us through tonight. So I think it's
man,
great.
this fear thing, that's all Josh. I've not heard that. So I've been
I like
trying to
it.
frame that for a while.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Like the more you can visualize ChatGPT as just a sphere and you're just poking it, um, like
I'm not
the
gonna
easier
lie,
it
I
is to
can't help but
conceptualize.
think of the sphere in Vegas, and it's that big, and I walk up to it and just poke the little part that I can reach.
That
And then what
that
if
is
the di
AI.
the digital on the outside did a ripple and then outputted so that's what I envision when you say sphere, so I like it.
So cool. So you would send it to um,
Someone else
somebody
that
that might
you
be.
think would be like, "What? What?" If you want someone to have some empathy for you too and to validate you and how confused or overwhelmed you might feel, send it to that person.
That that is a great sign off right there. Well, guys, if you enjoyed today's conversation, hit the like and subscribe. Um, Serious shout out to everybody that is over on Instagram. Sydney, we are past 2,000. As
We
of
hit
like this last
2,000?
weekend, we hit 2,000. I don't understand the world either. No
What?
other platform. We got a lot of commenters on TikTok, but nobody's really following those on any of the other platforms. It's really unique. Instagram has been, appreciate you guys. But really helps me and Sydney if you hit that like and subscribe. I know that
Yeah.
is, I hate saying that. Well, stay engaged, keep exploring the ideas, keep sending the things to the people, as we kind of talk about what's shaping the future of work, innovation, and business. We'll catch you next time on If This Then What. Curiosity fuels action, and the what ifs turns into what's next.
Hey.